Across cold forests, open plains, frozen tundra, and mountain ridges, wolves move through landscapes shaped by time, weather, and memory. They are neither relics of a vanished world, nor symbols defined by myth alone, but living predators whose lives unfold through cooperation, endurance, and constant adaptation. Every step they take is guided by knowledge passed between generations, every decision balanced between risk and survival. Their presence reshapes the land quietly. Through prey they follow, rivals they avoid, and paths worn invisible beneath snow and grass. This is the story of an animal bound not to a single place, but to movement itself, shaped by ancestry, environment, and an unbroken social bond that has endured through ages of change. Part 1. Origins. The lineage of wolves stretches deep into the late Ice Age, shaped by shifting continents, advancing glaciers, and the rise and fall of vast herds of large mammals. Their ancestry begins among early canids that emerged millions of years ago, small fox-like predators that adapted to pursuit rather than ambush, trading short bursts of speed for endurance and coordination. Over long spans of time, natural selection favored longer limbs, narrower chests, enlarged nasal passages, and brains increasingly tuned to social complexity. These traits formed the foundation of the wolf's success as both a hunter and a cooperative animal. As climates cooled and grasslands expanded, early wolves followed migrating herbivores across Eurasia and into North America. Their bodies became larger and more robust, capable of traveling enormous distances while conserving energy. Teeth evolved to shear flesh efficiently and crack bone when necessary, while jaw muscles strengthened to handle prey that outweighed the predator many times over. Unlike solitary carnivores, wolves thrived by working together, and this social structure became inseparable from their evolutionary identity. Genetic evidence shows that the grey wolf and its close relatives diverged from other canids long before the appearance of modern humans. By the time early human societies began to spread across the northern hemisphere, wolves were already established as apex predators in forests, tundra, steppes, and mountain systems. Their adaptability allowed them to survive in environments ranging from Arctic ice fields to semi-arid plains, a range unmatched by most large carnivores. Throughout this expansion, wolves underwent subtle regional changes. Northern populations developed thicker coats, compact ears, and powerful bodies suited for cold and snow. Southern populations tended toward lighter frames and shorter fur, better adapted to heat and open terrain. These variations did not fracture the species into isolated forms, but instead created a flexible continuum capable of interbreeding across vast distances, maintaining genetic cohesion while responding to local pressures. The rise of large herbivores during glacial periods played a decisive role in shaping wolf behavior. Herd animals, such as ancestral bison, horses, and deer, created moving reservoirs of energy that rewarded persistence over speed. Wolves that could track prey over days, remember migration routes, and communicate complex strategies gained a decisive advantage. Over generations, this favored memory, learning, and cooperation, traits that remain central to wolf society today. At the same time, competition with other predators exerted constant pressure. Saber-toothed cats, cave lions, and massive bears once dominated many of the same landscapes. Wolves survived not by overpowering these rivals individually, but by exploiting ecological gaps. They hunted in conditions others avoided, pursued prey over long distances, and fed efficiently on carcasses left behind. When many of these competitors vanished at the end of the Ice Age, wolves expanded further, filling ecological roles left vacant. The evolutionary path of wolves is also inseparable from the emergence of domestic dogs. Genetic studies indicate that some wolf populations formed early associations with humans, likely drawn to campsites and discarded remains. Over many generations, a subset of wolves adapted to human proximity, eventually diverging into dogs. Despite this shared ancestry, modern wolves remain fully wild animals, shaped by pressures very different from those experienced by domestic breeds. What defines the wolf's ancestry most strongly is continuity rather than specialization. While many predators evolved toward narrow ecological niches, wolves remain generalists, capable of adjusting diet, movement patterns, and social structure as conditions changed. This flexibility allowed them to survive dramatic climatic shifts, continental migrations, and repeated population bottlenecks. By the time recorded history began, wolves were already ancient animals, their behaviors refined by hundreds of thousands of years of survival in dynamic landscapes. Their ancestry is written not only in fossil bones and genetic sequences, but in the social instincts, endurance, and intelligence that still define them today. These traits would later place wolves on a collision course with expanding human societies, but they also ensured that wolves would endure long after many other Ice Age predators disappeared. Part 2. Habitats. The modern range of wolves reflects one of the broadest ecological tolerances ever achieved by a large terrestrial predator. From frozen coastal plains to dense boreal forests, from open grasslands to high mountain ridges, wolves persist wherever prey, space, and seasonal cover align. Their habitats are not defined by vegetation alone, but by movement, weather, and the predictable rhythms of prey species that shape the land through grazing and migration. In the far north, wolves occupy tundra and polar desert, where trees fail to grow and winter dominates most of the year. Here the land is open, wind-swept, and marked by extreme cold. Wolves in these regions rely on vast territories, often spanning thousands of square kilometers, following migratory herds across frozen rivers and snow-covered plains. The absence of cover favors endurance and long sight lines, allowing wolves to detect prey from great distances. Snow depth governs everything, influencing travel efficiency, prey, vulnerability, and even pack size. In winters with deep snow, wolves gain a mechanical advantage over ungulates, whose long legs and hooves break through crusted surfaces, while wolf paws distribute weight more evenly. South of the tundra lies the boreal forest, a mosaic of conifer stands, frozen wetlands, rivers, and seasonal clearings. This environment supports some of the highest wolf densities in the world. Dense cover limits visibility, shifting hunting toward ambush and short pursuit, rather than extended chases. Wolves move along frozen waterways, game trails, and forest edges, memorizing the landscape with remarkable precision. Seasonal variation is extreme, with insects, heat, and soft ground-shaping summer movement, while winter compresses prey into predictable travel corridors. The forest provides shelter for denning and pup rearing, while also supporting a diverse prey base. In temperate forests, wolves navigate more fragmented habitats shaped by deciduous trees, rolling terrain, and pronounced seasonal cycles. These regions often support deer, wild boar, and smaller ungulates, rather than massive herds. Wolves adjust by forming smaller packs and relying more heavily on stealth and coordination. Leaf cover changes visibility dramatically between seasons, altering both hunting success and the likelihood of encounters with rivals. In autumn, Fallen leaves and marsh crops shift prey behavior, indirectly influencing wolf movement and territory use. Grasslands and steppe environments present a different challenge. Open terrain offers little cover, but supports large herds that move across vast distances. Wolves here rely heavily on speed, coordination, and stamina, often testing herds repeatedly to isolate vulnerable individuals. Wind direction becomes critical, carrying scent across kilometers. Wolves learn to use subtle terrain features such as shallow depressions, riverbanks, and vegetation changes to mask their approach. These landscapes favor packs that can travel efficiently and make rapid decisions during high-speed pursuits. In mountainous regions, wolves inhabit steep slopes, narrow valleys, and high-elevation plateaus, where weather shifts rapidly and prey distribution is uneven. Vertical terrain shapes every aspect of wolf behavior. Movement is energy-intensive, so wolves follow ridgelines, saddles, and animal paths that minimize elevation gain. Avalanches, deep snow, and thin air create natural barriers that both predators and prey must respect. Mountain wolves often specialize on species adapted to rugged terrain, using gravity and terrain funnels to their advantage during hunts. Desert and semi-arid environments represent the margins of wolf tolerance, yet some populations persist in these harsh landscapes. Here, water availability becomes the dominant constraint. Wolves travel primarily at night, resting in shaded areas during daylight hours. Prey is often smaller and more dispersed, leading to increased scavenging and opportunistic hunting. Territories expand to encompass reliable water sources, and movement patterns become tightly linked to seasonal rainfall and prey migrations. Across all habitats, wolves demonstrate an ability to read the landscape as a dynamic system, rather than a static backdrop. They respond not only to geography, but to weather patterns, fire cycles, seasonal flooding, and human land use. Frozen lakes become highways in winter, while spring thaw transforms them into barriers. Burned forests create temporary feeding grounds for herbivores, drawing wolves in their wake. Floodplains concentrate prey during high water, while drought scatters it across marginal areas. Habitat selection is also shaped by avoidance. Wolves tend to favor areas with minimal human disturbance, even when prey is abundant elsewhere. Roads, settlements, and intensive agriculture fragment territories, increasing energetic costs and risk. In some regions, wolves adjust by shifting activity to nighttime, hours, or using rugged terrain less favored by humans. These adjustments reflect behavioral flexibility rather than preference, and they often carry hidden costs for reproduction and survival. The defining feature of wolf habitat is scale. Wolves require space measured not in hectares but in landscapes. Their presence depends on connectivity, allowing dispersing individuals to find mates and vacant territories. Fragmentation disrupts these processes, isolating packs and reducing genetic exchange. Where landscapes remain intact, wolves integrate seamlessly into ecological systems, responding to prey movements that can span hundreds of kilometers over the course of a year. Despite this diversity, no habitat shapes wolves in isolation. Their success lies in their ability to transition between environments as conditions change, following prey across boundaries that mean little to them. Forest edges blend into grasslands, mountains descend into valleys, rivers freeze and thaw. Wolves persist by adapting to these transitions, maintaining a way of life rooted not in any single place, but in movement itself. Part 3. Prey. The survival of wolves is inseparable from the animals they hunt. Across their range, prey species shape pack size, movement patterns, social structure, and even reproductive success. Wolves are not bound to a single prey type, yet they are not indiscriminate predators. Their choices reflect a balance between opportunity, risk, and energy return, refined through experience and cultural transmission within packs. Large hoofed mammals form the backbone of wolf diets wherever they occur. Deer, elk, moose, caribou, bison, wild horses, and similar species provide the caloric foundation needed to sustain packs through harsh seasons. These animals are not taken at random. Wolves assess age, health, body condition, and behavior, often focusing on individuals whose movement reveals weakness. A slight limp, delayed reaction, or separation from the group can determine the outcome of a hunt. This selective pressure removes individuals least likely to survive, subtly shaping prey populations over time. In northern regions, caribou and elk dominate wolf diets, particularly during seasonal migrations that create predictable pulses of abundance. Wolves learn the timing and routes of these movements, positioning themselves along river crossings, mountain passes, and bottlenecks where prey density increases vulnerability. In years when migration routes shift due to weather or human disturbance, wolves may experience food shortages despite the presence of prey elsewhere, underscoring their reliance on ecological predictability. In forested environments, deer and wild boar become primary targets. These prey species are smaller than moose or bison, yet more numerous and widely distributed. Hunting them often requires greater stealth and coordination, as dense vegetation limits visibility. Wolves adapt by using short bursts of pursuit and flanking maneuvers, driving prey toward obstacles such as fallen logs, deep snow, or steep terrain. The relative abundance of these prey allows packs to persist with fewer members, reducing competition within the group. Grassland and steppe wolves frequently target herd-forming ungulates such as antelope, wild sheep, and horses. These animals rely on speed and open terrain for defense, forcing wolves to engage in prolonged chases that test endurance rather than acceleration. Wolves rarely succeed on the first attempt. Instead, they probe herds repeatedly, identifying individuals that fatigue more quickly or respond poorly to pressure. This testing behavior conserves energy over time, reducing the cost of failed hunts. In mountainous regions, prey species include mountain goats, sheep, and deer, adapted to steep terrain. Hunting here is shaped by gravity and topography. Wolves use narrow ridges, cliffs, and snowfields to limit escape routes, forcing prey into disadvantageous positions. A single misstep by prey can end a chase instantly. These hunts are high risk, as a fall can injure or kill a wolf as easily as its target. As a result, wolves in such environments tend to be highly selective, abandoning pursuits that appear too dangerous. Smaller prey also plays a significant role, particularly during periods when large ungulates are scarce or inaccessible. Beavers, hares, rodents, birds, and even fish supplement the diet, especially for lone wolves or small packs. Beavers are a notable example, providing a rich and predictable food source along waterways during ice-free seasons. Wolves learn to exploit these animals by waiting near lodges and dams, demonstrating patience and timing rather than speed. Scavenging is an often underestimated component of wolf-feeding ecology. Wolves readily consume carrion left by other predators, animals that succumb to winter starvation, or carcasses from natural disasters. This behavior reduces hunting effort and risk, allowing wolves to conserve energy during lean periods. Far from being a sign of weakness, scavenging reflects adaptability and ecological efficiency. Seasonality governs prey availability and vulnerability. Deep snow, extreme cold, drought, and flooding all alter the balance between predator and prey. In winter, weakened animals and restricted movement favor wolves. In summer, abundant vegetation and dispersed prey make hunting more difficult, shifting diets towards smaller animals and scavenging. Wolves respond by adjusting movement patterns, pack cohesion, and territory use, demonstrating a dynamic relationship with their food base. Prey selection is also shaped by learning. Young wolves observe experienced adults, acquiring knowledge about which species to pursue, how to approach them, and when to abandon a chase. These learned behaviors persist across generations, creating local hunting traditions that reflect regional prey communities. When prey populations change, whether through climate shifts or human influence, wolves must relearn these strategies, a process that can take years. The relationship between wolves and their prey is not one of simple domination. It is a continual exchange of pressure and adaptation. Prey species evolve better detection, coordination, and escape strategies, while wolves refine cooperation, endurance, and decision-making. This interaction maintains ecological balance, preventing overpopulation and habitat degradation. Through their prey choices, wolves shape landscapes indirectly, influencing plant communities, water systems, and the behavior of countless other species. Part 4. The hunt. Hunting in wolves is a synthesis of anatomy, coordination, and decision-making shaped by long experience. Their bodies are built not for explosive speed, but for efficiency across distance and time. Long limbs, narrow chests, and flexible spines allow a smooth, ground-covering gait that conserves energy while maintaining momentum. This design enables wolves to travel for hours at a steady pace, tracking prey until fatigue, terrain, or weather shifts the balance in their favor. The mechanics of movement begin with the trot, a gait wolves use more than any other. It is economical, quiet, and sustainable, allowing packs to move together while maintaining awareness of one another. During a hunt, wolves often transition fluidly between trot, lope, and sprint, adjusting speed based on prey behavior rather than committing immediately to a chase. This restraint reflects an understanding of energetic cost. Every pursuit carries risk, and wolves abandon many hunts before contact is made if conditions are unfavorable. Biomechanically, the wolf's shoulder structure allows extended stride length, while strong tendons store and release energy like springs. This reduces muscular fatigue during long pursuits. Their paws distribute weight across a broad surface, improving traction on snow, mud, and uneven ground. Claws provide grip rather than weapons, anchoring the wolf during sharp turns and sudden acceleration. The neck and jaw muscles are powerful, designed to deliver precise crushing bites that incapacitate prey quickly once contact is achieved. Coordination within the pack is central to hunting success. Wolves do not rely on rigid roles, but on flexible positioning that adapts in real time. Individuals fan out during approach, applying pressure from multiple angles without triggering a full flight response too early. This strategy keeps prey moving while preventing panic-driven sprints that would waste energy. When prey attempts to flee, wolves rotate positions, allowing individuals to rest briefly while others maintain pursuit. During the chase, wolves exploit weaknesses rather than strength. They target the rear or flanks of moving animals, testing balance and stamina. A wolf may nip at the legs or haunches, not to kill immediately, but to force a stumble or separate an individual from the group. These bites are controlled and deliberate, minimizing the risk of injury to the hunter. Once prey is isolated or slowed, the pack closes in, ending the hunt swiftly. Terrain plays a decisive role in biomechanics and strategy. On open ground, endurance dominates. In forests, maneuverability and timing become critical. Wolves adjust stride length, head position, and speed to navigate obstacles while maintaining pressure. Snow depth alters everything. In deep or crusted snow, prey sinks and tires quickly, while wolves remain buoyant. In shallow snow or bare ground, prey retains its advantage, often forcing wolves to abandon pursuits early. Weather further shapes hunting mechanics. Cold temperatures improve endurance by reducing overheating, while extreme heat limits activity to dawn, dusk, or night. Wind direction determines approach, as wolves rely heavily on scent to locate and assess prey. A favorable wind allows wolves to approach unseen, while unfavorable conditions may lead them to wait or reposition for hours rather than risk detection. The final moments of a hunt require precision. Wolves aim for the throat, muzzle, or nose, restricting airflow and blood supply. This technique reduces struggle and lowers the chance of serious injury. Contrary to popular perception, wolves avoid prolonged combat. Injuries that limit mobility can be fatal, so efficiency and caution govern every movement. Even successful hunts leave wolves alert and ready to disengage if conditions change. Young wolves learn these mechanics through observation and practice. They participate in hunts long before they are capable of contributing effectively. Chasing, testing, and retreating as adults demonstrate restraint and timing. Through repeated exposure, they develop spatial awareness, muscle coordination, and judgment. This learning process is gradual, reflecting the complexity of cooperative hunting rather than instinct alone. Hunting biomechanics also extend beyond the chase itself. After a kill, wolves feed in a structured order that minimizes conflict and injury. Jaw strength allows them to access muscle, organs, and bone, extracting maximum nutrition from each carcass. Efficient feeding reduces the frequency of hunts, conserving energy across seasons when prey availability fluctuates. The effectiveness of wolf hunting lies not in brute force, but in refinement. Every movement, from the placement of a paw to the timing of a bite, reflects a balance between effort and outcome. This balance allows wolves to persist in environments where mistakes carry severe consequences. Through biomechanics aligned with strategy, wolves transform cooperation into survival, maintaining their role as enduring predators across vast and varied landscapes. Part 5. Family life. Family life in wolves is the structural core around which all other behaviors revolve. Reproduction is limited within the pack, usually to a single breeding pair whose bond stabilizes group dynamics over many years. This restraint is not enforced through constant aggression, but through social cohesion, learned boundaries, and hormonal suppression, influenced by stress and social cues. By limiting reproduction, the pack avoids overextension of resources and ensures that offspring receive sufficient care. Mating occurs once each year, timed precisely to environmental cycles. In most regions, breeding takes place in late winter, so that birth coincides with spring, when prey becomes more abundant and weather conditions improve. Gestation lasts approximately 2 months. During this period, the pregnant female reduces travel and risk, while other pack members increase hunting effort to support her nutritional needs. This shift in responsibility reflects the cooperative foundation of wolf society. Birth takes place in a den selected with care. Dens are typically located in sheltered areas such as riverbanks, hillsides, forest edges, or beneath fallen trees. The location balances concealment, drainage, and proximity to prey movement. Some dens are used repeatedly across generations, while others are abandoned after a single season. The choice reflects both tradition and adaptability, guided by experience rather than instinct alone. Pups are born blind, deaf, and completely dependent. Their early world consists of warmth, scent, and touch. For the first weeks, the mother rarely leaves the den, relying on other pack members to bring food. These helpers, often older siblings, regurgitate partially digested meat, providing nourishment tailored to the pup's developing systems. This shared investment strengthens social bonds and increases survival rates, reinforcing cooperation across generations. As pups grow, their senses open gradually. Eyes open first, followed by hearing, and then coordinated movement. The den becomes a place of exploration, play, and learning. Play is not random. Through mock fighting, chasing, and biting, pups develop motor skills, social awareness, and bite inhibition. These early interactions establish hierarchies that remain fluid rather than rigid, preparing individuals for adult roles without constant conflict. By early summer, pups begin to accompany adults to rendezvous sites away from the den. These sites serve as temporary gathering points while adults hunt. Here, pups are left under the supervision of one or more adults, while others travel long distances in search of prey. This system allows the pack to balance mobility with protection, reducing risk to vulnerable young while maintaining access to food. Feeding order during this period reflects both care and structure. Pups are given priority, followed by the breeding female, then other adults. This hierarchy is not enforced violently, but through subtle signals, posture, and timing. Such restraint minimizes injury and preserves energy, essential in environments where recovery from wounds is uncertain. As autumn approaches, pups begin to participate more actively in pack movement. They follow hunts at a distance, observing without engaging. Their physical development accelerates, yet their contributions remain limited. Adults tolerate mistakes and inefficiency, recognizing the long-term value of experience over immediate gain. This patience is a defining feature of wolf family life, distinguishing it from purely competitive social systems. Dispersal marks the transition from family member to independent individual, typically occurring between the ages of 1 and 3 years. Dispersal is not sudden or forced. Some wolves leave early, driven by curiosity or opportunity. Others remain for multiple seasons, assisting in raising younger siblings. The timing depends on prey abundance, pack stability, and individual temperament. Dispersing wolves travel alone or in small groups, sometimes covering hundreds of kilometers in search of vacant territory or unrelated mates. This phase is the most dangerous period of a wolf's life. Mortality is high due to starvation, conflict with resident packs, human hazards, and unfamiliar terrain. Yet dispersal is essential for genetic exchange and the formation of new packs, preventing inbreeding and maintaining population resilience. When dispersers succeed, they establish new territories, often in marginal or contested areas. Over time, successful pairs may attract additional individuals, forming the nucleus of a new pack. Thus, the cycle of family life begins again, rooted in cooperation, restraint, and shared investment. Wolf family structure is neither rigid nor simplistic. It adapts to environmental pressures, prey availability, and individual personalities. What remains constant is the prioritization of group stability over individual reproduction. This strategy has allowed wolves to persist through dramatic ecological change, ensuring that each generation inherits not only genes, but knowledge, relationships, and a place within a living social system. When you are ready, say Part 6, and I will continue with relationships, including male and female interactions, territorial overlap, and sibling dynamics, maintaining the same rules and length. Part 6. Social bonds. Relationships among wolves are built on familiarity, memory, and restraint, rather than constant dominance. Within a pack, individuals recognize one another, not only by scent and appearance, but by behavior patterns accumulated over years of shared experience. These relationships form a social network that governs movement, hunting, breeding, and conflict resolution, allowing the group to function with minimal overt aggression. Male and female interactions within the breeding pair are characterized by long-term cooperation. Pair bonds are reinforced through shared travel, synchronized behavior, and mutual tolerance rather than frequent displays. Subtle gestures such as body alignment, tail position, and pacing communicate intent and emotional state. During periods of stress, such as food scarcity or territorial pressure, these bonds become especially important, stabilizing the pack and reducing internal conflict. Outside the breeding pair, interactions between adult males and females are shaped by kinship. Most pack members are related, which lowers competition and increases tolerance. Courtship behaviors may appear among non-breeding adults, but these rarely lead to mating within the pack. Hormonal suppression and social cues limit reproductive attempts, preventing destabilization. When tension does arise, it is usually resolved through avoidance or submission, rather than violence. Sibling relationships play a central role in pack cohesion. Littermates form strong bonds through play, shared learning, and coordinated movement. These bonds often persist into adulthood, influencing hunting coordination and dispersal decisions. Siblings may disperse together or remain as cooperative helpers, depending on opportunity and environmental conditions. Rivalry exists, particularly around food, but it is moderated by learned inhibition and the presence of adults who intervene subtly when needed. Territorial behavior defines interactions between packs. Wolves maintain nourished territories through scent marking, vocalizations, and patrols rather than constant physical defense. Boundaries are dynamic, shifting with prey movements, pack strength, and seasonal conditions. Overlap can occur temporarily, especially in areas of high prey density, but sustained intrusion often leads to conflict. These conflicts are serious, as encounters between packs are one of the leading causes of wolf mortality. When packs encounter one another, interactions escalate rapidly from assessment to action. Howling exchanges allow packs to gauge numbers and cohesion without direct contact. If neither group retreats, visual encounters may follow, characterized by posturing and synchronized movement. Physical fights are brief and violent, targeting vulnerable individuals. Despite the risk, such encounters reinforce territorial boundaries and regulate population density. Within the pack, leadership emerges through experience rather than force. Older individuals often guide movement and decision-making, particularly during hunts and travel. Younger wolves learn by following, observing subtle cues that indicate when to advance, wait, or retreat. This transmission of knowledge creates continuity, allowing packs to exploit landscapes efficiently across generations. Social bonds also influence space use. Wolves often rest in proximity to preferred companions, reinforcing alliances within the pack. These associations can shift over time, reflecting changes in age, health, and role. Injured or aging wolves may receive tolerance and support, though severe impairment can alter their status and survival prospects. Compassion is not a conscious trait, but cooperation persists as long as it benefits group stability. Communication underlies all relationships. Facial expressions, ear position, tail carriage, and body posture convey intent with precision. Vocalizations range from howls used for long-distance coordination to whines and growls that regulate close interactions. Scent marks provide information about identity, reproductive status, and territorial claims, forming an invisible network of messages across the landscape. Relationships between packs shape regional dynamics. Territories form mosaics that adjust as packs grow, shrink, or disappear. Vacant territories attract dispersers, while strong packs expand influence. This fluid structure maintains balance, preventing unchecked expansion, while allowing recolonization of suitable habitat. The social world of wolves is complex but economical. Energy is conserved by minimizing unnecessary conflict and maintaining clear expectations. Through enduring bonds, flexible hierarchies, and precise communication, wolves sustain cooperation across years of shared survival. These relationships allow them to function not merely as individuals, but as integrated units, capable of responding collectively to the challenges of their environment. Part 7. Rivals. Where wolves live, they rarely stand alone at the top of the food web. Across continents, they share space with other large carnivores whose survival depends on the same prey and the same landscapes. These relationships are neither constant warfare nor peaceful coexistence, but shifting balances shaped by season, numbers, and terrain. In much of the Northern Hemisphere, brown bears are the most dominant competitors wolves encounter. Adult bears outweigh wolves several times over and can displace entire packs from kills through intimidation alone. Wolves often detect bears before visual contact, responding by retreating and waiting at a distance. This loss of food forces wolves to hunt more frequently, increasing energetic demands. During summer and autumn, when bears are most active, this competition is strongest. In winter, when bears hibernate or move less, wolves regain access to large carcasses and experience reduced pressure, often increasing hunting success during the coldest months. In regions where American black bears occur, interactions follow a similar pattern but with less absolute dominance. Black bears are more cautious and more likely to retreat from larger wolf packs, particularly in open terrain. Still, they frequently appropriate wolf kills when opportunity allows, especially in dense forest where visibility is limited. Wolves respond by feeding rapidly and remaining vigilant, often posting one or more individuals to watch for approaching bears. In Eurasia, wolves share forests and mountains with Eurasian brown bears, whose size and aggression make them formidable rivals. In these landscapes, wolves adjust hunting times and carcass use to reduce overlap. Packs may abandon kills early rather than risk injury, demonstrating a consistent preference for avoidance over confrontation. Injuries sustained during conflicts with bears can be fatal even when the wolf survives the encounter. Large cats represent a different kind of competition. In Asia, wolves overlap with tigers in forested and mountainous regions. Tigers dominate these interactions through size, strength, and ambush capability. Wolves avoid areas of high tiger density whenever possible, shifting movement patterns and territory boundaries accordingly. Where overlap occurs, wolves tend to focus on smaller prey or scavenge cautiously, rarely challenging a tiger directly. Tigers, in turn, may kill wolves opportunistically, particularly lone individuals or dispersers. Leopards also compete with wolves across parts of Asia and Eastern Europe. Unlike tigers, leopards rely heavily on ambush and forest cover. Wolves often displace leopards from open terrain, while leopards retain advantage in dense vegetation. These species tend to partition space rather than engage directly, though encounters at kills can result in aggression. Wolves typically dominate through numbers, while leopards rely on concealment and retreat. In North America, cougars share large portions of wolf range. Cougars are solitary ambush predators, specializing in sudden attacks rather than pursuit. When wolves recolonized parts of North America, cougar behavior shifted noticeably. Cougars experienced increased kill loss to wolves, as packs frequently discovered and appropriated cougar kills. In response, cougars altered hunting times, moved into steeper or denser terrain, and increased kill rates to compensate for losses. Direct encounters can be fatal to either species, but wolves generally dominate when packs encounter solitary cougars in open terrain. In Europe and Asia, wolves also interact with Eurasian lynx. Lynx specialize in ambushing medium-sized prey and generally avoid wolves. Where wolves return to lynx range, lynx may abandon kills more frequently and shift hunting areas. Wolves occasionally kill lynx during territorial encounters, though such events are rare and usually occur near kills or dens. Competition is especially intense with other social canids. In North America, wolves and coyotes overlap extensively. Wolves typically dominate these interactions, often killing coyotes encountered within their territories. This behavior is territorial rather than predatory, as coyotes are rarely consumed. The presence of wolves suppresses coyote populations, indirectly affecting smaller prey species and altering ecosystem dynamics. In Eurasia, wolves interact with golden jackals in a similar manner. Wolves dominate larger territories and displace jackals from prime hunting grounds. Jackals persist by exploiting human-altered landscapes, scavenging near settlements, and targeting smaller prey. This separation reduces direct conflict while reinforcing ecological roles. In rare regions where African wild dogs and wolves approach historical overlap, competition would theoretically favor wolves in colder or more rugged terrain, while wild dogs dominate open savanna through extreme endurance. However, such overlap is minimal in the modern world. Scavengers add another layer of pressure. Ravens, eagles, and vultures quickly locate wolf kills, sometimes alerting bears or other predators. Wolves tolerate birds, recognizing that removing them is costly and ineffective. Instead, they adjust feeding behavior, consuming vital organs first and dispersing remains quickly. Human activity reshapes all of these relationships. Roads, hunting remains, livestock carcasses, and refuse attract multiple predators to the same sites, increasing conflict. Wolves respond by altering activity cycles, often becoming more nocturnal and more cautious, even when this reduces hunting efficiency. Despite facing stronger individuals, stealthier hunters, and competing packs of other species, wolves persist through cooperation. Their advantage lies not in size or speed, but in collective assessment, adaptability, and learning. Packs adjust behavior based on experience, remembering dangerous areas and modifying movement across seasons and years. Rival predators do not merely challenge wolves, they shape them. Through constant pressure, wolves refine their caution, coordination, and restraint. These interactions maintain balance at the top of ecosystems, preventing dominance by any single predator. Wolves endure in these crowded carnivore communities not by eliminating rivals, but by navigating around them, yielding when necessary, and exploiting opportunities others cannot. Their survival is not defined by victory, but by persistence within a network of powerful competitors. Part 8. Human history. The relationship between wolves and humans stretches back tens of thousands of years, shaped by shared landscapes, overlapping prey, and parallel social structures. Long before agriculture or permanent settlements, humans and wolves occupied similar ecological roles as cooperative hunters following migrating herds. This proximity created both competition and familiarity, laying the foundation for one of the most complex interspecies relationships in history. Early humans and wolves encountered one another at carcasses, river crossings, and seasonal hunting grounds. Both species relied on endurance, coordination, and learned knowledge of prey movement. In these shared spaces, wolves were neither purely enemies nor allies. They were rivals capable of stealing kills, but also indicators of prey presence and landscape change. Observing wolf behavior may have informed early human hunting strategies, just as wolves adapted to the presence of increasingly efficient human hunters. Over time, this relationship diverged along two paths. Some wolves began exploiting human campsites, feeding on discarded remains and waste. These individuals were less fearful and more tolerant of proximity, traits that increase survival near human groups. Across generations, this process led to the emergence of domestic dogs. Meanwhile, fully wild wolves remained competitors, increasingly pushed into marginal areas as human populations expanded. With the rise of agriculture, the balance shifted dramatically. Domesticated animals replaced wild prey across large regions, and wolves began targeting livestock. This change reframed wolves from ecological equals to perceived threats. Pastoral societies responded with lethal control, viewing wolves as symbols of disorder and danger. Myths, folklore, and religious narratives reinforced this image, portraying wolves as embodiments of chaos, greed, or evil intent. Throughout medieval and early modern periods, organized campaigns sought to eliminate wolves from human-dominated landscapes. Bounties, traps, poisons, and coordinated hunts reduced wolf populations across much of Europe and parts of Asia. Similar patterns later unfolded in North America as settlers expanded westward. Wolves were systematically removed to protect livestock and game species favored by humans. These efforts were often successful in the short term, leading to regional extirpations. The disappearance of wolves altered ecosystems in subtle but profound ways. Without large predators, herbivore populations expanded unchecked, overgrazing vegetation and reshaping landscapes. Forest regeneration slowed, riverbanks eroded, and biodiversity declined. These changes were not immediately linked to the absence of wolves, but accumulated over decades, revealing the depth of their ecological role. Cultural perceptions of wolves were never uniform. In some indigenous traditions, wolves were respected as teachers, kin, or spiritual guides. Their cooperative behavior, endurance, and loyalty inspired stories that emphasized balance rather than fear. These perspectives recognized wolves as integral components of living systems rather than adversaries to be conquered. The modern era brought new understanding. Advances in ecology and long-term observation revealed the regulatory influence of wolves on ecosystems. Reintroductions and natural recolonizations demonstrated measurable changes in prey behavior, vegetation recovery, and species diversity. These findings challenged centuries of hostility, replacing myth with evidence. Despite this shift, conflict persists. Wolves continue to prey on livestock in some regions, particularly where natural prey is scarce or human land use fragments habitat. For those whose livelihoods depend on grazing animals, wolves represent economic risk rather than ecological benefit. Compensation programs, non-lethal deterrence, and adaptive management have reduced conflict in some areas, but tensions remain, unevenly resolved. Modern wolves navigate landscapes heavily shaped by human activity. Roads, fences, urban expansion, and industrial development fragment territories and increase mortality. Wolves respond by altering movement patterns, becoming more nocturnal, and using remote or rugged terrain as refuges. These adjustments demonstrate resilience, but they also impose energetic and reproductive costs. Human attitudes toward wolves now span a wide spectrum. Some view them as symbols of wilderness and restoration, others as threats to tradition and livelihood. Policy reflects this division, oscillating between protection and control depending on political, cultural, and economic pressures. Wolves thus exist not only as biological organisms, but as contested ideas within human society. Scientific research has transformed understanding of wolf behavior, dismantling misconceptions about aggression and dominance. Long-term studies revealed family-based social structures, cautious interactions with humans, and complex communication systems. This knowledge has reshaped management approaches, emphasizing coexistence rather than eradication. The history between wolves and humans is not a linear progression from conflict to harmony. It is a cycle of coexistence, competition, suppression, and reassessment. Each phase reflects broader changes in human society, from nomadic hunting to industrial expansion to ecological awareness. Wolves have endured each shift, adapting behaviorally and geographically to survive alongside a species that reshapes its environment faster than any other. This enduring interaction reveals as much about humans as it does about wolves. Fear, admiration, exploitation, and respect have all defined the relationship at different times. Wolves persist not because they overcame humans, but because they adapted to the margins left behind, waiting for conditions that allow return. Part 9. Conservation. The conservation of wolves reflects a broader shift in how humans understand their place within natural systems. After centuries of persecution and decline, wolves became one of the first large predators to force a reckoning between eradication and ecological responsibility. Their story is marked by extremes, from near extinction in many regions to cautious recovery shaped by science, policy, and persistent conflict. By the early 20th century, wolves had disappeared from much of their former range. Intensive hunting, poisoning campaigns, habitat loss, and prey depletion reduced populations to isolated remnants. In many countries, wolves survived only in remote mountains, dense forests, or politically unstable regions where human pressure was lower. These fragmented populations suffered from inbreeding, reduced genetic diversity, and limited dispersal, leaving them vulnerable to disease and environmental change. The turning point came not from sentiment, but from ecological observation. As ecosystems degraded under unchecked herbivore pressure, scientists began tracing these changes back to the absence of large predators. Research revealed that wolves influence prey behavior as much as prey numbers, altering grazing patterns, movement routes, and habitat use. Vegetation recovery followed in some areas, stabilizing soils, reshaping waterways, and creating conditions for other species to return. Legal protection marked a critical step in recovery. Bans on poisoning, regulated hunting, and habitat protections allowed surviving wolf populations to stabilize. In some regions, wolves recolonized naturally, dispersing across borders and reclaiming historical territories. In others, Deliberate reintroductions re-establish packs after decades of absence. These efforts demonstrated that wolves retained the capacity to return, provided sufficient space and tolerance existed. Recovery has not been uniform. Some populations expanded rapidly, while others remained, constrained by human density, infrastructure, and political resistance. Roads fragment habitat and increase mortality through vehicle collisions. Fences disrupt migration routes and isolate packs. Illegal killing continues in some areas, driven by fear, resentment, or economic loss. These pressures slow recovery and create unstable population dynamics. Livestock conflict remains the central challenge of wolf conservation. In landscapes dominated by grazing, wolves sometimes prey on domesticated animals, particularly where natural prey is scarce or poorly managed. This conflict fuels opposition to protection efforts. Yet research shows that preventive measures such as guarding animals, deterrent devices, adaptive grazing practices, and compensation programs can reduce losses significantly when applied consistently. Success depends less on any single method than on long-term commitment and local cooperation. Genetic connectivity is another critical concern. Isolated populations risk losing resilience over time. Conservation strategies increasingly emphasize corridors that allow dispersing wolves to move between regions, maintaining gene flow and reducing inbreeding. These corridors need not be continuous wilderness, but functional pathways through which wolves can travel with minimal risk. Their protection often benefits many other species as well. Public perception plays a decisive role in shaping policy. Wolves evoke strong emotions, both positive and negative. For some, they symbolize wildness, recovery, and ecological integrity. For others, they represent threat, loss, or imposed change. Effective conservation acknowledges these perspectives rather than dismissing them. Where local communities are included in decision-making and benefit sharing, tolerance increases. Where policies are imposed without dialogue, resistance hardens. Climate change introduces new uncertainty. Shifting prey distributions, altered snow patterns, and increased frequency of extreme weather events will reshape wolf habitats in unpredictable ways. In some regions, reduced snow cover may favor prey escape and reduce hunting success. In others, changing vegetation may alter prey availability entirely. Wolves will adapt behaviorally, but rapid environmental change tests the limits of that flexibility. The future of wolves does not depend solely on protection status. It depends on coexistence within shared landscapes. Wolves do not require untouched wilderness, but they do require space, prey, and tolerance. Their continued presence signals not a return to a past world, but the possibility of balance within a human-dominated one. Conservation has transformed wolves from symbols of fear into subjects of study, debate, and cautious respect. They now exist at the intersection of biology and culture, shaped as much by policy and perception as by climate and prey. Their recovery demonstrates that even heavily persecuted species can return when ecological understanding replaces myth. The story of wolves remains unfinished. Populations will rise and fall, conflicts will persist, and landscapes will continue to change. Yet wolves have endured ice ages, continental shifts, and centuries of human hostility. Their survival into the present suggests not inevitability, but resilience grounded in cooperation, adaptability, and restraint. In choosing whether wolves persist into the future, humanity is deciding more than the fate of a single species. It is choosing whether complex, self-regulating systems still have a place in a world shaped by human hands. Wolves stand as a measure of that choice, not as relics of wilderness, but as living participants in landscapes that continue to evolve. The end.